how do we go about simplifying the complicated with a level of detail that, again, shows that it's not that simple?
Honestly, you're describing what programming is. Programming is really that magic that people don't really understand, but it creates an outcome, and the programmer's skill level is often reflected in how easy it looks.
That's especially impossible.
Not at all. It's very simple.
Then explain it.
Now that's impossible.
On this episode of ResiWeek, we talk Lego lessons, snaps, subscriptions, and cyber and resiliency. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek. This is ResiWeek, episode 415, Connect and Assist. Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv. And this week, I'm pleased to be joined by two of my good friends. First, we have Aaron Rozanski. He's the Director of Distribution Markets over at Vanco. How you doing, Aaron?
Doing well. Glad to be here.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us. Then we have my good friend, Mr. Steve Greenblatt. He's the CEO of Control Concepts in New Jersey. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. All right, before we jump in, I want to give a quick congratulations to James Chen and Stuart Tickle. They are the newly elected members of the board over at CEDIA, as well as congratulations to a good friend of the show, Mr. Alex Capistrano, who is the new chairman from Josh AI. So that is fantastic news for the association, as those gentlemen are going to be doing some great things. There's also some changes to the exec board, etc. You got Google, you can go look at that up. We are going to kick this off with a story that comes to us from Residential Systems and a good friend of the show, Mr. Henry Clifford, learning from Lego. He asks, what if your team knows what good and done actually looks like? To sum up Henry's article real quickly, over the Christmas break, his daughter got a lovely Lego set, as did all of my kids. And what you think is going to take days to assemble takes children with those instruction books like hours. Steve, you get to look forward to this. It's coming soon for you. But he prefaced this is with the way in which that experience mirrored some of the stuff that they're doing at Livewire, and trying to understand if they are showing what a project looks like at completion, and if they're articulating that well to their customers. Aaron, I want to start with you on this. As an industry, do we know how to detail what done looks like in a way that our end users, our customers, can actually understand?
I think so, and I think it's continually working to get better in that concept of what is truly done. I love the article, not just because of a huge Lego fan myself and put together many sets over the break, but he kind of hit on the head that as you lay out a job and prep to offer that the end user the experience that they want, the details matter. And if you, the installer, are able to illustrate that to the end user step by step of what their experience is going to be at the end, and really guide them through that process, I think is extremely important. And I've seen it that our integrators that we've worked with on the manufacturer side are doing that on a daily basis, and continue to get better at that. We use our sales team and our design team to try to illustrate that from our concept when we design projects, and it's extremely important, giving that end user that experience that they're looking for, and the details matter step by step. So as much as we can prepare the customer for that, I think helps all of us in the end, and sets us up for a successful job.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Steve, how do we go about simplifying the complicated with a level of detail that, again, shows that it's not that simple.
Honestly, you're describing what programming is. Programming is really that magic that people don't really understand, but it creates an outcome, and the programmer's skill level is often reflected in how easy it looks. So a programmer with a greater skill level is going to make the outcome look like it was just a snap and it didn't take a lot of effort and everything came together very nicely. But a programmer that struggles, you have a little bit more respect for all that went into it. It also has to do with what you're trying to accomplish. When we're looking at something that has been done before or something that may be little bit more basic or a little bit more straightforward, those things come together quite nicely when you're in the custom realm and you're doing things that you haven't done before. The struggle is part of the process, honestly. And what I liked about this article too is that often we talk about things in terms that we know. We talk about things in the way that makes sense to us, and we talk about what is what are those building blocks and pieces that have to go together? What are the technical aspects? But we forget about that big picture that the client really appreciates. They don't necessarily know. Very few clients walk behind a rack and they look at all the beautiful wiring, or they realize everything that goes into making the aesthetics of a project go smoothly, but they really appreciate the outcome when it's there. So it's something that we really should remind ourselves of very often. And I think the idea that you can also make a picture be something that is a lot more digestible to somebody, it is another thing to remind yourself of.
Yeah, that's a really good point. All right, let's change topics for a second. This comes to us from CE Pro and a good friend of the show, Mr. Arlen Swagger. Snap One rolls out Control4 Connect and Assist, which is a recurring revenue solution for the community Control4 dealers. If you how do we say this nicely? If you are a member of any of the Control4 forums, you know all about this because it has been lighting up social media across the board. But go read through the article. It gives a really good overview of what the new Control and Assist program does and how the pricing lays out, and how it affects existing customers as well as new customers in the future. But long and short, with a base subscription fee of essentially $900 US, customers get a proactive system monitoring and access through the Control4 Assist team of programmers, technicians, and certified network administrators to solve questions, answer questions, solve issues, and manage the customer experience. Steve, let me start with you on this. There's a ton of technical stuff we could dig into on this. But I kind of want to have a larger conversation about if this is the future for primarily the residential space, because this is a resi show, but really the AV space in general. Do we expect to see some form of subscription or licensing come down for normal usage of your smart home system or automation platform at your office, at your place of work in the future? Is this going to become the norm?
I think the simple answer is yes. I think if you look at the way Apple and all the apps, and I'm an Apple user rather than an Android user. I'm sure it's the same as there. All the apps used to be a purchase fixed price, and everything has moved to a subscription. And I think we pay subscription for almost everything, and we don't own music. We buy a subscription. So everything these days is subscription based. I think that is a trend that it shouldn't be a surprise. I think that the way they're doing it and the relationship of the manufacturer and the end user client here, that's where things I think are going to get a little sticky. And I think that's probably where some of the friction is coming in, and that the manufacturer is dictating the relationship, and the integrator really kind of has to go along with it. So I think that has probably where people are raising a lot of flags and saying that this is not the way we do business. But the idea that it's subscription based, I think, shouldn't come as a surprise. And I also believe that more and more products are being software upgradable, and I think that by paying for a subscription, you take something that you bought once, and that grows over time, and that can have greater features, and in the end you probably will benefit because you're taking this investment that you made and it's not getting outdated as quickly as it used to, and with a subscription model you can continue to have updated features. I don't know, that somehow manufacturers have to recoup some of that cost.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, Aaron, I saved we'll say the easy question for you. I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place on these topics in this story. We have customers in my company who will bemoan the fact that their camera system doesn't work 4 years down the road remotely via their phone because the manufacturer stopped supporting that line of NVRs and building the app to keep up with Apple's OS platform, right? So they'll bite our heads off. They'll bite our heads off over, Sonos when they made their transition in their product line, and a bunch of products kind of rolled off. At the same time, if we go and pitch this type of a system to them, they'll also bite our heads off because they don't want to pay that subscription rate. Is it completely going to come down to the way we articulate this to the customer and the way the manufacturers articulate this to us?
I believe so. I mean, the ability to offer the customer a solution that will be reliable, that will be able to upgrade if needed down the road, and remote access for the integrators to tap into that is important. And I think the end user needs to be fully aware of those two scenarios. You can have bucket A, that full access, full support, that costs X, and here's bucket B that was more price sensitive for your application, but you're going to miss out on solutions and access as the integrator can support it over the long term. So I think it really does come down to the fact that the manufacturers need to work with integrators to give them a roadmap on how they can facilitate and support the end user, and in the same breath, the integrators communicating that information to the customer. It is a kind of a team effort, group effort, in that fact that manufacturers have the responsibility to offer those solutions to integrators, and in the same breath, integrators to promote that and fully illustrate that to the end user from a cost standpoint, and what those specs can support in the long term.
Steve, let me just ask you one more question before we move on to the next one. And again, I'm kind of pulling this back to my company, just as a tangible point. We pay for a lot of software subscriptions, right? We have the entire Adobe suite. We pay for SketchUp. We pay for our accounting platforms. We pay for our sales tracking or CRM. I don't have a huge problem paying the astronomical fees that we pay for that over the course of a couple of years, because I know that there are significant features that get added sometimes daily. I know with, for example, like Photoshop, they are changing stuff every couple of days and throwing new bits of AI that are shockingly amazing. So I don't have a problem with that. When I look at some of the other platforms, especially within our channel, and look at what their updates are over the base of these subscriptions, I don't necessarily see a massive value there. Is there a way that integrators won't get stuck with, selling the dream and not being able to fulfill it because they're at the mercy of manufacturers that may or may not do a lot to really add value to that subscription.
Definitely will. Yeah. I mean, they have to trust, and they have to be buying into something that they know is proven. I guess, it's similar to if you're buying anything that in the past, we would buy hardware, and we would buy a system that we hope that was upgradable. We hope that would be able to not have to be outdated. And I think the same is true with the subscription model, is that you have to have some trust that this is a partner, and the manufacturer is going to be able to provide value for that cost. And honestly, the integrator is going to be responsible for selling that. So I think that there's certainly risk involved, and it's certainly going to be a new dynamic. And I think it would probably be advisable that Control4 or any other manufacturer doing this kind of lays out a roadmap so that they can share what it is that they will be providing in the next year or years to come, to show that this is something that's worth investing in.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We'll have to watch and see where that goes. All right, let's change topics again. This also comes to us from CE Pro. Consumer IoT groups have provided feedback to the FCC to try and keep the cyber trust mark voluntary as well as protected. They want to, again, see this happen, but they want it protected across the board. Aaron, let me start with you. We've talked about this cyber trust mark a couple of times on the show. How much of this comes down to the manufacturers wanting to actually participate in this, and again, see some form of actual value, some form of tangible value in going through the rigmarole to qualify for this and be able to, slap this on a product that hopefully the consumer will recognize and understand what it means?
Yeah, I mean, that is the ultimate question of, at what cost do we all find benefit from in the long run? I think it's extremely important, cybersecurity in all aspects of our business, both residential and commercial, and the products that we manufacture and products that our installers are putting into these jobs. It's important to have that security and offer that to the end user. But at what cost, at the end of the day, do we see return as a manufacturer, as an integrator that's buying those products that would have this label on it that offers up the cybersecurity? Because I'm assuming that's not going to come at a free of cost price tag. So and in all honesty, I mean, yeah, that's the big thing is, does that added cost justify the product getting into the job and passing it on to the end user? Will the end user allow for that price tag to be elevated and support those products accordingly? And that's the biggest question. But at the end of the day, cost is what's going to really be a big factor, whether this continues forward, and if it is at one point becoming mandatory.
Steve, do you expect this to become mandatory? Is there a true value in it being voluntary versus mandatory?
Well, I think that it could provide a competitive advantage to manufacturers that commit to it and invest in it. And I think for certain applications, certain scenarios, it could provide great value. I come from the commercial side. I could see where there's certainly need for there to be more of an attention to the cybersecurity. But I do also think that there are very very famous, affluent end users that have residential systems that are probably just as secure or need to be just as secure as some corporate systems. So I do think that there's a lot of value in using this as a differentiator, and I think that that cybersecurity and cyber insurance and all that goes along with the precautions taken to make systems more secure are only going to grow. And I think that there's going to be more attention to this, and unfortunately, what's going to probably push it over the edge are the times where we're going to see those breaches, and that's when people are going to really put their foot down and say that more needs to be done. So again, similar to what Aaron said, cost is a factor, and also you're only as good as the weakest link. So you could have certain products that are either approved or pass certain tests, but if you have others that don't, how secure is your overall system?
Yeah, that's a really good point. All right, we'll hit our last topic of the day real quickly, just because I want to. This comes to us from Residential Tech Today, the Resilient Smart Home Series Part 2, Other Systems in the Home. Go read through this article. It does also link to the initial article. But Jay in this article is talking about not only he's got a definition for his definition, that's terrible, of a resilient home, but he talks about a couple different things in this part, specifically energy, water, and heating and cooling. So I don't want to like nitpick on this directly, even though it'll sound like I'm going to, but Steve, do we have any business playing in the space of a quote unquote resilient home, or should we be coming at this from the reliable home standpoint?
This is a topic or a conversation that's a little new to me, but I could see the value in it. I think being able to monitor systems in a home, being able to have some way of having sensors and understanding what's going on, and maybe have alerts or trigger backups, I think is where we can come in. But I don't necessarily believe that our industry is the solution for building a resilient home. In short, I just don't. It's not really what we're set up for. But I think that we can play a part in it potentially.
Aaron, there are some good points that Jay makes in this, right? You can have backup power systems that we can automate in our channel. There's quite a few battery backup companies in the industry. There's a couple of solar companies in the industry, and companies that make systems that allow you to swap that over. I haven't really seen that from the water standpoint, where you can have your standard supply and then a backup supply, etc. Is this a space that is large enough to justify integrators really dabbling in it even?
I feel it almost becomes a territory thing too. Throughout the country, people in the Southeast, integrators in the Southeast, deal with different weather factors than other parts of the country, and same in California, same here in the Midwest and Chicago, right? And I think as integrators can do their due diligence and research and set the homeowner up with the best possible scenario for, God forbid, the worst case scenarios that they may factor or come into a contact with, whether it's storms, water backup, is something that would be new. But can they prepare the home the way that and give the customer the best experience if needed, that a negative situation arises? And I think, again, it comes down to the integrators doing their due diligence and research with the products that they purchase, setting up with the battery backups, and discussing that with the homeowner as well too, as they are preparing and building that bill of goods out. That this is here to set up for success. There are some situations that are out of their control, and they need to be upfront with the homeowner as well, because again, there's some weather factors that are just not not on the integrators, under their control. So again, I think it's important, but each territory of the country is a little bit different in the nuances that they face throughout their region.
Yeah, that's a good point. So definitely go read that article. I'm going to plug something completely separate to this. If you want to play in this space and you want to figure out a little bit what this space really looks like, go read Mike Glover's book. I believe it's called Resilient. You can get that on Amazon or Fieldcraft or anything like that. But it'll take this article and really show you another aspect of it. All right, gentlemen, let's wrap it there. Thank you both so much for joining us. Aaron, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Vanco, where can they do that?
Yeah, so you can visit our website, vanco1.com, where you can check out all our solutions, products that we offer. We'll also be at ISE, I believe, next week, booth 4E170. Myself and our team will be out there, so really excited for the show next week.
That's awesome. Steve, thank you for being here. If people want to connect with you, learn more about Control Concepts, where can they do that?
You can reach me on social media, me at Steve Greenblatt. You can reach my company, Control Concepts, at controlconcepts.net. I too will be at ISE. I will be attending the AVNation tweet up. So please look for me there if you're going to be at ISE. I'm sure we can provide more information. I think it's in the HD Base T booth, and looking forward to seeing a bunch of familiar faces. I also do the programming and control podcast on AVNation.tv. So please check that out as well with Rich Fragoso. That's called The State of Control. And I also have another podcast called Ask the Programmer with James King. So all those programming related things, I'd love to talk to more people about it. And thanks for having me on.
You're just a media mogul over there. All right. Thank you again for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at Matt D. Scott on Twitter or X and pretty much every other social platform. But more importantly, please visit avnation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek,
the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
This is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AV Nation.